When it comes to who we are, the media around us has repeatedly shaped our perception of our identity, while also serving as a picture for those outside of a given group to look in. This can be traced back throughout human history. Historians have learned more about many different cultures from the art they have left behind than we ever would have known otherwise. While it is interesting to know the perspective aspect of art, it is also worth noting the effects that art can have on shaping individuals, rather than showing them. And in this aspect, one medium is particularly adept at affecting those who consume it. I love video games. I've grown up with them since I was very young, and while I played a lot of games back then, there was one game, and its subsequent series, that has truly stuck with me so much that I have already pre-ordered the series' third main title, set to release almost 18 years later. The original Kingdom Hearts, on the surface, seems like your simple good versus evil story. You know, a hero's journey, and on some level, it is. You play as Sora, a 14-year-old boy chosen by a powerful weapon to fight the darkness that has just destroyed his world, and will do so for all others if you don't stop it. You gain allies and beloved Disney characters, and go on your quest to save your friends and your world. In the beginning of the game, the developers go out of their way to show us both Sora and Riku's personalities. Sora is meant to be seen as a nice kid with big dreams. He and his friends have started gathering supplies to use a raft to take them to other worlds. During this time, Sora spends his days on the island playing with his friends, helping with the raft, and we see through Sora's cave drawings that he has a particular fondness for his friend Kairi. Overall, the game shows us that he is just an innocent kid at this stage in his life, and we see there's nothing he wouldn't do for his friends. In contrast to Sora, we have Riku, his best friend. Riku is portrayed as the older teenager in the group, a friend to Sora, but also a rival. Riku is always challenging Sora to various physical competitions, sword fights, races, for various reasons. At times it seems little more than to annoy Sora. In one instance, Riku tells Sora the legend of the Palpu fruit. In their world, if two people share one, their destinies become intertwined, and they will always remain a part of each other's lives. Riku then challenges Sora to a race, claiming that the winner of this race would share a Palpu fruit with Kairi. While this turns out to be a joke on Riku's part, it clearly demonstrates to the player that he is perfectly willing to mess with Sora's emotions. The idea of traveling to other worlds came to them with the arrival of Kairi. As we soon learn, Kairi is from another world, one of which she has no memory. Before they embark on their quest, Sora is given a dark omen from a mysterious robed figure. Destiny Island gets destroyed by darkness, and the game proper begins. What's interesting about this game is the idea of victory is challenged by its ending. Mickey Mouse is revealed to possess a Keyblade that is in the same shape as Sora's iconic weapon, and they both use their Keyblades to seal the door that is leaking darkness into the worlds. That said, it means we have to leave Mickey as well as Riku, who helped us close the door on the other side, in the Realm of Darkness. Meanwhile, Kairi is taken back to the now restored Destiny Island, leaving Sora, Donald, and Goofy to wander the worlds in search of Riku and Mickey. Now this game does a fantastic job of letting us know Sora. After the first game, the series delves much deeper, and thoroughly does away with the simple description, in order to tell a more complex story, elicit more emotion from the audience, and in my case, raise ever more questions. As a child, I did not own a Game Boy Advance, therefore I missed out on Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, a game which honestly deserves its own video when talking about identity in Kingdom Hearts. But regardless, upon receiving Kingdom Hearts 2 3 years later, I was completely stunned to learn we were playing as a fully new character. Roxas, a chosen warrior of the same Keyblade I had last seen Sora use. Being a young kid used to Saturday morning cartoons, I had assumed this was 1,000 years in the future, and the weapon had moved on to its next owner to fight the new threat that had emerged in the Nobodies. But that didn't quite fit the narrative. Every night, Roxas would have dreams of the previous game's events. This was puzzling, but I put off thinking about it as a child, assuming the game would eventually explain. And while I was correct in that assumption, the explanation I received was far from what I had expected. While I was correct in that this was the future after the first game, I had overshot my date by about 999 years. Sora was asleep, having his memories restored by a new character named Naminé, who had some strange connection to Kairi, and the dreams were a side effect of the restoration process. The trouble is, Roxas has a special connection to Sora, one that has only been hinted at so far. In truth, Roxas is the nobody of Sora, a being supposedly without a heart or emotions, a being that is destined to return to their whole self and cannot truly exist on their own, or so the game devs would have us believe. This sets up a somber story for our current game protagonist, a story where Roxas fights tooth and nail against letting reach its conclusion. We see in Roxas behaviors we could never see coming from Sora. He's quick to anger, he lashes out at those who try to lead him down one path or another. In-game characters even comment saying, "You should share some of your hatred with Sora. He's far too nice for his own good." This was a logical roadblock. All this time we were told nobodies had no hearts and couldn't experience real emotions, but put on a facade to mislead our heroes. Now, in many cases, the powerful nobodies that form the game's main antagonists, Organization 13, do provide evidence to this, as they do often change their emotions, based on what they think Sora will respond to. One member calls Sora a traitor, their leader puts on a show of sorrow for a false missed opportunity. However, we see out of Roxas, and even from his friend Axel, the emotions we see from them are very different. We see Roxas genuinely cares about his friends, and Axel, at the very least, is highly upset that seemingly his best friend has completely forgotten him. We see both of them express themselves with anger at the situation. But anger is a very real and very strong emotion, which nobodies aren't supposed to possess. These questions aren't answered in Kingdom Hearts 2's prologue. Instead, Roxas joins with Sora despite his own wishes, and Sora sets out on his quest to once again find his friends. We see Roxas must still possess a small amount of agency, as Sora sheds a tear when he leaves Roxas' friends behind as he sets off on his quest. This for people he only met moments before. Instead of answers, what Kingdom Hearts 2 gives us is initially portrayed as a real tragedy when it comes to Roxas. Eventually, Axel gives his life to save Sora, causing the agency Roxas has left inside him to lash out once again. This time, to take control. Roxas goes about this the only way he knows how, by attacking with his Keyblades and starting a duel between him and Sora within the Dive to the Hearts. Sora, being unaware who Roxas is, where he came from, or why he's doing this, is forced to defend himself. In the end, Roxas is defeated. He shares a tearful goodbye with the spirit of Axel, and resigns the last of his power over to Sora. The reason this tragedy is such in this moment is that this is really just a footnote for Sora. Roxas is not the final boss, nor is Roxas the one keeping Sora from his friends. Sora's crisis of identity is beaten and pushed aside in order to focus on a much bigger threat. Only once that threat is dealt with does Sora realize the reality of the situation, which we will deal with in a moment. But first, I would like to take us back to the real world for a second. After growing up playing this series, life eventually did go on and I started college. I met a girl there, and fast forward a few years and we are engaged. Now this girl, while she didn't grow up on video games like I did have one game that was very important to her and asked that I play it. This game was Rune Factory Frontier. First off, I would like to say I had a lot of fun with this game. It featured an interesting mechanic in its marriage system, and I do want to make clear that any observations made for any games in this video speak nothing at all about the game's quality. Now, the main character of Rune Factory Frontier is not like Sora. In this game, he is a blank slate character, having no discernible personality aside from being somewhat nice sometimes. His personality is dependent solely upon the player's actions, and therefore does not share the identity crisis we see from characters within Kingdom Hearts. There is, however, one character who suffers from issues of identity in this game, known as Iris. Now, Iris is a unique character in that when you first meet her, it is not in the normal village where you meet all the other characters in the game, but rather she is found atop a floating whale in the sky after dark. She is a cute blonde girl with a white dress, and if you talk to her regularly, your character will become close friends with her. At one point, you will come across another girl. She looks like the Iris you've met, but she has silver hair and a black dress, who starts to fight you under the control of the game's antagonist, Gelwin. However, if you have a close enough friendship with Iris, she will step in and stop this girl from attacking you. It is revealed that both of these girls are in fact Iris, the last of a tribe of ancient vampires who was split apart by Geldwin. If you choose to go through their storyline, it is eventually revealed that they are able to rejoin together, not through combat, but as part of a ceremony, a celebration attended by the whole town with friends and family who care about them all around. Throughout the whole game, they make it perfectly clear that these two want to rejoin together, which honestly was a complete system shock to me. I was very concerned that one of them was going to lose themselves to the other, because I was immediately brought back to 2005 and the struggle between Roxas and Sora. I bring this up to get to the theme of this video, how identity issues are portrayed in games, and what that may say about them. Iris is surrounded by friends, loved ones, and leaders in the village to help them with the situation and support them. In Kingdom Hearts, on the other hand, we see Sora's friends being intentionally taken out of the plot, not allowing them to help Sora. Also, rather than coming to terms with his emotions in that moment, Sora is required to beat Roxas into submission. The battle takes place within the dive to the heart, within Sora himself, so we are actually watching Sora repress a part of himself, rather than accepting it, due to the idea of a more important problem. Sora and Roxas, two male characters, have to fight to maintain their identity, whereas Iris finds her identity calmly with help and support. Now, one thing of note, this is not meant to bring anything negative against the Kingdom Hearts series. This is not the fault of Sora, as he didn't even know who Roxas was at this time. It's not Roxas' fault. He was told from the moment he was born this was the way he could continue to exist. And it's not even on the fault of Square Enix, because based on what happens at the end of this game, as well as later games, I feel this may have been an intentional plot point to tell a better story with a better message in the end. At the very end of Kingdom Hearts 2, we realize that both Roxas and Naminé, who is revealed to be Kairi's nobody, are alive and well within Sora and Kairi respectively. After one last fight with Xemnas, the game ends on a shot of Sora and Kairi fading to show Roxas and Naminé together. A happy sentiment, but it does little to show growth for either character or explain why they had to fight for sentience. That is, until Kingdom Hearts 3D. Sora is sent into a dream state where he meets what remains of Roxas within himself. After both have had time to reflect, Sora realizes that Roxas and all nobodies have every right to be their own person the same as he does. Something that, while he never denied Roxas specifically, he vehemently disregarded for other nobodies such as Saïx and Xemnas. Roxas is aware of this fact too. However, he is also aware that Sora must continue on. He realizes that there are so many hearts connected to Sora's, he needs to be the one in control, at least for now, in order to save many other characters we've come to know and love in this series. At this point, Roxas fully relinquishes himself over to Sora, including giving him all of his painful memories from his time in Twilight Town and in the organization, and finally fading from Sora's dreams. Knowing that if anyone can give him his own existence one day, it's going to be Sora. Only now does Sora recognize the reality of the situation. Nobodies have emotions. Maybe not always, maybe not the same ones he does, but they have emotions just like regular people. At which point he confronts Braig and returns Xemnas about this fact. It turns out the reality of the situation is, nobodies may start out as a blank shell, no emotion or no speech in their life, but as they go through life and interact with people, they develop these things. Something Xemnas told them to be impossible, and everyone, including our heroes, believed, making the tragedy of Roxas' circumstance even worse, as the fact that Roxas is currently gone, even when he could have very easily been his own person. Despite this fact, and the message about gender and identity in these games, I am hopeful. For even though the company that made Rune Factory has long closed, and we may not get a new one of those, we are scheduled to receive Kingdom Hearts 3 next year, and the trailers have already portrayed Sora going on to his next quest to save lost Keyblade wielders. And we can only hope that Sora was correct in his last game, and that we can see both Sora and Roxas working together, each as their own person, to stop Master Xehanort once and for all.